padded locks, seismic heat sensors, magnetic fields, and a lock with 100 million possible combinations. Could you crack it? Leonardo Nartibalto did. Diamonds, gold, silver, and many other types of jewelry were locked behind that door, up to valued over $100 million worth, that were stolen that day. The Antwerp diamond heist was one of the biggest diamond heists in history, with no record of the recollection of the stolen items. Leonardo was the one who orchestrated the whole heist, but he couldn't have done it by himself. Him and 4 other members of his gang, which of one was never caught, did this, and he gave them all fake aliases. The first one's name was Speedy. He was the most paranoid and anxious of the bunch, and he was the closest friend with Leonardo. He was in charge of dispersing the evidence. The second one was named the Monster. He was described as tall and muscular, and he was an expert lockpick, mechanic, and driver. The third one was called the Genius, and he was an expert with alarm systems. The fourth one, the King of Keys, was the one that was never caught. He was an expert key forger and described to be one of the best key forgers in the world. This diamond heist took skillful and very intellectual people to pull off. But how did they do it? Not until 6 years after his 10-year prison sentence did Leonardo talk to any reporters or tell anybody what happened. This is one report that I found describing how they pulled off this heist. The first thing that they did, 3 days before they entered the museum, they had to put hairspray over the heat sensors. That way it would cause a temporary block and they wouldn't be caught by the heat sensors. Leonardo also, when he went in for his inspection, planted a small tiny camera across the room from the padded key lock so they could get the combination code. Starting the night, the King of Keys lockpicked the entry gate so that they can get in. After that, the Monster, with precise steps, walked to the middle of the room to locate the security system. The security system was up in the ceiling, hiding above the tiles. Once he found it, he took the system out, carefully stripped the wires, and added a new wire to the already stripped copper wire. That way he could reroute the system without setting off any alarms. After that, they covered all the cameras with plastic bags, and then they went ahead and went in. After they put in the combination lock, they found a small key in a metal box close by, and they used that to unlock the door. Beforehand, they used a slab of aluminum to tape the 2 magnetic fields to the antechamber wall. That way no more alarms and no more systems were set. Then they were in. Once they were in, the King of Keys used a hand crank drill to open up the boxes and retrieve their contents. After working for a couple of hours, and after opening 109 boxes by hand, they retrieved the contents, went to the security office, and retrieved the videotapes of them being there. And at 5:30 a.m. that Sunday morning, they left to dispose of the evidence. No fingerprints were found left in the vault, so how did they get caught? Speedy and Leonardo were left in charge of going to take the evidence and dispersing of it and hiding it. They went out to a nearby forest, and they thought that it was safe enough. Leonardo burned his half, but Speedy was having a panic attack because he thought that they needed to leave. So instead of burning his evidence, he went and hid his evidence in the forest, but they thought that was good enough. A couple of days later, the guy who owned the land, named August Van Camp, he was a grocer, found the evidence in the forest. He reported it to the police because he believed it had been a couple of kids that had been coming on his land that he had had problems with in the past, so he reported it. The police came immediately and found the empty envelopes from the Diamond Center, as well as a receipt for a sandwich from a grocery store. They tracked that grocery store down, saw the security tapes, and they saw Leonardo buying the sandwich. This was the beginning of their demise. The Antwerp diamond heist was one of the biggest diamond heists in the century, and on record, still over half of the diamonds that were stolen were not recovered. If you learned anything from this, burn your evidence.